And so you've got the Christians over here saying like, no, the Bible's a literal story, and everything else is esoteric, doctrine of demons. You guys are going way too in depth. You guys are taking it way too serious. Like, you know what I mean? And then you have the esoterics, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Golden Dawn. Well, they don't really study the Bible, but you know what I mean? Like the esoteric schools of thought. And they're going like, no, you guys are feeble-minded. You guys are believing in fairy tales. You guys are taking the Bible as a literal story. You guys are taking religious texts and thinking of it as a literal series of events, but it was never that. It's metaphorical, it's philosophical, it's theological, it's all these things. But the thing is that it's both of them. It's both of them combined. Like there's this divide that takes place where it's like you have to choose one or the other. It's either the Bible was a literal series of events that happened, okay, or you believe that, oh, okay, Israel isn't an actual physical place. It's a place that you reach in your mind. It's like a consciousness. It's this kind of stuff. And then they have mountains of evidence for it, for verses in the Bible. And then Freemasons are amazing sometimes because they can literally show you the anatomy of a body and like the 33 vertebrae of your spine. Golgotha, in the York Rite, Freemasonry, Knights Templars, Golgotha is the place in the back of your mind. And each life of Jesus Christ, I said that so weird, but each life of Jesus Christ, sorry, each year of Jesus Christ's life is one up in your spine, and then your spinal fluid reaches all the way up, and this like it's incredible, like this stuff that they'll speak about, and it's doctors, you know what I mean, like people who actually know it, who know the anatomy of the body, and then they look at these religious texts and they're like, oh, like this is making sense, and so they feel like they found something that's so hidden that no one else can find, like that Christians are missing, and they're right, because the Christians are missing it, because they're only taking it as a literal story that happened, right? And so, and everything else is witchcraft, everything else is demonic, everything else is this. And so, it's actually difficult to be an actual individual, right, who goes to a church and then you start saying these kind of ideas where it is a literal story, like Jesus Christ is an actual, was God manifested in the flesh. But then and they go, yeah, that's what we believe. And so it's like, okay, so let's talk about the golden ratio. Let's talk about the Fibonacci sequence. Let's talk about microcosm to macrocosm. And they go, oh, it's witchcraft. Oh, it's a doctrine of demons. Oh, you've lost it, bro. You're tainted by this. But it's like, what? It's cookie cutter. You know what I mean? Like they believe it on the surface, but they don't actually dive into the water. They don't actually swim in what they believe. And so and it's sad because it created a polarization between, the Mason, Masonry has a lot of stuff I don't agree with in it, but they have knowledge in it that is worth hearing because it enhances your faith in Jesus Christ. And here's an example, was law of attraction. These guys peddle that like no tomorrow, and it works for them because when you look at how they operate and stuff like that with charities, the Shriners are one of the best, I would say probably one of the better charity organizations out there, because Shriners Hospital, Shriners Circus and stuff, like they raise money for like for children usually, and they give free medical care. So like professional doctors, the top of the line, right, will do an eye transplant for free for a blind child that can't afford it because they know that God is going to reward them. But where they're losing it is that they don't believe in the same God that like the Ummah or like um Christians or like Abrahamic faith. They don't really believe in that. They believe in like something else because they don't identify with the Christians inside of the church, because the Christians in the church tell them they're a witch or tell them that they're a warlock, and some of them are, and some of them are. I know it to be true, right? So I'm not giving a pass to those people, but I'm saying the ones who actually are like a Christian, but they don't belong, they feel like they don't belong. They feel like they don't belong inside of the church. And so now they're surrounded by these, golden dawn people and, witchcraft, like actual witches, but they're Christians. And they do more for God in the world than a lot of Christians do inside of the church, especially the Protestant church, Catholic church, all this stuff. Like, it's a shame. It really is a shame, because if we combine the two and had discernment, you know what I mean? And we're aware, because I'm not saying that Freemasonry has all this good teachings. It does, but they lose it a little bit. Rosicrucians, same thing, right? Rosicrucians, I haven't actually met a real Rosicrucian that's been initiated, not once, but not in Canada. Like, I think it's more so in Europe. But once again, mental imaging, they have incredible knowledge. And that you okay, so here's an example of that is Jesus, when he was speaking to people, there would be a crowd of like 500 people around him, 1,000 people around him, 5,000 at one point, and this is what he would say to people: "Let those who have ears to hear hear, and eyes to see see." And then people would be like, "Well, I have two eyes, like I'm not blind." And some people would be, and the same people usually would be like, "Well, I have ears. I heard what you said. I'm not deaf." But that isn't what Jesus was saying when he was saying that. He was saying, you can't see me. You aren't seeing what I'm saying to you, right? So let's dive further into that. Okay? When we're talking about, you know, something hidden, like this guy was a serial killer, nobody knew, and then the police came, arrested him in the community. And then everyone's like, "What? I didn't see that coming." Or they're like, it came to light, and then it came to light one day, what he was doing in the dark, or like the skeletons in his, you know what I mean? So that kind of thing. Or if you didn't know something, right, you say, "Yeah, and then it finally dawned on me." Then it finally dawned on me. Or if you have a kid, or some other kid or whatever, or someone else, and you go, "Yeah, like he's a bright kid. He's a bright kid. I think he has a bright future." We're always using these analogies or metaphors with light, that has to do with light being shown and illuminating a dark place. And so that is something that a Freemason or a Rosicrucian would talk about. And they would be like, "See, like when Jesus was saying that, he was talking about a metaphorical thing, like mental imaging. Like inside of your mind, you can see your imagination. Like you can actually see it. You can be in Hawaii while you're in Canada because of your memories, and you can feel the heat, you can feel the sand in your hands, you do all this. And so that, like, this is what Jesus was saying, right? One part of it, because he is infinity. And so there isn't just one interpretation that this is the absolute truth. And so now I'm going to start Lutheran Christians. Now I'm going to start Protestant. Now I'm going to start Catholic. There was none of that. It's just Jesus Christ. That was it. You know what I mean? Like, you're not supposed to have a faction. You're supposed to have a God, and his name is Jesus Christ. And from his teachings, you can interpret it 100,000 million ways. And most of them would be true. Most of them would be true if it leads to a good thing inside of your life. And so this is what I mean, is that when we polarize Christians, witches, all these other people, we're not listening to what they're actually saying. We aren't listening to what they're saying, and at the same time, they aren't listening to what Christ is saying. We are thinking our interpretation is right and all this, but the truth, it's Jesus Christ is the truth. He's the truth, the way, and the life. That's three things. And three is a recurring number inside of the Bible, right? 33 is how old Jesus was when he was crucified. But then people say, "Well, that's a cult. Well, that's occultic. It's like, see, you're talking about witchcraft. See, you're talking about this." But no, I'm not. And neither are they when they're saying that, because it is a truth and there is a meaning behind it. Another one is seven. The number seven is a synchronistic number in the world, right? There's seven classical liberal arts and sciences. There's seven base emotions. There's seven seas, seven wonders of the world, seven planets that are visible from or visible from Earth. Um, it actually goes on further, but I wanted to say seven senses, but I know that that isn't right. But stuff like this, and so there's a Fibonacci sequence of microcosm to macrocosm, and when God's saying, "I'm the first and the last," He is the beginning of this spiral, and He is the last of it because He is the Most High. He is the macrocosm, the ultimate macrocosm, and he sent down the spiral and it returns to him in his hand, and he can step out of it if he wants to. Like, this is what I mean. But you can't deepen your relationship with God without exploring this kind of stuff and trusting God that, you're not going to be dragged into evil. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not supposed to have fear, right? Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Is that only a physical place? When God says wherever you go, is he only talking about a physical place? If you're going here to Jerusalem or here to, your mailbox, or here to, he's talking about wherever you go mentally, spiritually, wherever you go, I'll be with you. So when you're in despair because your parent, some tragedy happened in your life, I'm going to be with you. And I will be with you at the mailbox too when you go and check your like, do you see what I mean? But it's not just one interpretation that is the truth. You deepen your relationship with Jesus Christ and with God when you start thinking outside of the box. And some of those thoughts are going to lead you to a dark place, and you say, okay, like, I'm going back. I repent, right? Like I discern that that's evil, but you're not going to be afraid to go there, right? So, like, I just wanted to say that because I really wish that one day we would open our minds. Like, you know, a lot of Masons are hard-headed, man. They have a lot of pride, a lot of ego. A lot of them, they just want to succeed in the world. But then you meet these other ones, and Rosicrucians too, right? I haven't met any though, but Rosicrucian teachings I've seen, and people, they even call themselves grandmasters and stuff. And it's incredible knowledge. And dude, it has grown my relationship with Jesus Christ immensely. You know what I mean? From occult stuff, right? Now, some of it was evil, and I rebuke it in Jesus' name, right? Like, that's not for me, right? That's not for, I don't believe it was for anyone. But at the same time, it's like, dude, I have found such amazing things that the church would never talk about. But it's truth. But it's truth. And so they're suppressing stuff once again. And same thing, it's crazy because religion has been an oppressive force for a long time. Okay. Not God, not Jesus Christ, not, I'm talking about religion. And so an prime example was the Catholic Church in Europe was killing all these scientists, was suppressing everything that was threatening their power. But that wasn't God. That was the people who claimed to follow him as a middleman, right? Like, and then we're mad at Jesus because they burnt witches at the stake, because they did this when Jesus said, "Thou shalt not kill." These people weren't following Jesus; they were following their own desires, money, narcissism. If you want to come to God, you have to come to me first. But they don't actually believe in God. They just believe that you're stupid and I'm smart enough to know that this isn't real. But I'm gonna insert myself in front of you. This is what it is. This is the game that they play. And so, and same thing happened in the Middle East, right? Dude, Islam had a golden age, advancing in science, advancing in medicine, advancing all this. And then till one day, this caliphate came, suppressed everyone, and started saying everything is evil. They had this crazy interpretation of Sharia law. All this stuff oppressed them, just like how the Catholic Church did to us in Europe, to the Christians. And the Muslims had the exact same thing happen to them, because these were two powers, governments is what it was, contesting for each other for influence. And so now you have crusades, now you have jihads, now you have all this where it's conquering by a sword and subjecting all of these other people to have to pay a jizya, to have to pay a tithe, to have to pay all of this. Like, it's shaitan, it's Satan and the jinn, right? It's Satan and the demons, right? Like, it's so obvious when you see a group like ISIS come up, when you see a group like Taliban, Al Qaeda, right? Al Qaeda, and you see them. That's not, these are workers of shaitan and the jinn. Like, they kill more Muslims than they do any other religion. If they could get their hands on another religion, they will, right? But I'm saying for the most part, they oppress their own people. And same thing happened with Catholics and Protestants. We killed each other. At one point, 40 million people died, bro, from a war between Protestant and Catholic in Europe, Germany and England, killing each other. 40 million people, and they're Christians killing other Christians. And same thing happens with Islam, Sunni killing Shia and the Sufis, right? Like this is what's been happening for a long time. They pit us against each other. Like, so anyways, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, so anyways, I just went on a rant here, but it's oppression from, polarization, and eventually they cause a divide between Muslim, Christian. Well, Jews have already, they don't like us. They don't like any of us, but I'm not talking against them though. I don't hate anybody, but see what I'm saying? Like, this is how this stuff happens. So yeah, I just wish that there, people were more open. People were more open to hearing other people, at least hearing what they have to say, rather than just right off the bat going like, you're a devil worshiper. Oh, you must be this. You must be like you know, it's just a shame, because there's a lot that you could learn if you would just listen. You're right. Like, same thing for me. Like, same thing for me. Sometimes I'm at work and I'm like, man, I wish I just listened, because now I'm gonna have to do this extra step for the next 2 hours or something, right? When I could have been done this. I could have been done this already if I had just listened. But no, I wanted to do it my way, right? But that's the price that it takes to gain wisdom, right? But anyways, just wanted to make this one quick, man. Talking about that. But yeah, God bless you guys, man.